Hey everyone, and welcome to the Trail Network podcast. I'm here this week with Hilary and Katie. This is Leah, and unfortunately we're missing Rachel, but we are going to do an Ask Me Anything episode. We've been accumulating questions for months now. We're sorry to our avid listeners who we've left astray in some of our Instagram messages, but we've got some questions that we're going to do a roundtable with today and kind of just pick each other's brains about different things going on in the sports, favorite trail snacks, favorite summit snacks, what we do in races, things like that. It's going to be a fun episode, super chill. And yeah, we're excited to have you along. How are you guys doing?
Yay. I'm good. I just poured myself a glass of wine from a bottle I found half open. So we're great. This will go well.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes, happy Tuesday. How are you, Katie?
I'm awesome. That's so funny. We had a guy who picked up a bunch of wood from our backyard to use for firewood, and he left us 4 bottles of wine on our front porch, and we were like, whoa, happy Tuesday.
That's a trade.
Well, this will be coming out on Thursday. We have to pretend it's a Thursday.
No, it's fine.
Thursday.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, actually, it was so beautiful up in Mammoth. I just got back from there yesterday. We were up with Tim for a couple of days, and all the leaves are changing, and it actually feels like fall, which is so nice. Is it doing that in Park City, like Salt Lake City as well, Leah?
Oh, it's so nice. Yeah, I'd say like last week and the week prior were peak leaves, and now it's starting to get to the point where half of them are shedding their leaves, and it's really sad because winter's coming.
Yeah.
Winter's coming.
Today was the first day I had a workout, and it was the first day I did it up at the Lakes Basin. So it's 8,200 feet. And it was the first time that my lungs were like stinging from the cold air. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. Go away. But it's going to come, and we're going to have lots of drives to Bishop, which is 45 minutes away to get away from the snow. But that's okay.
But it's like cool that you can do that. I think it's such a fascinating like combo, Mammoth and Bishop, like the fact you can drive down and be like in summer weather in the middle of winter when it's proper winter.
Yeah. It's true. It's kind of money, actually. Yeah. It's like the only way you could make it work if you're trying to be a professional runner, or you are a professional runner. Anyway.
Your volume, Katie, you're getting up there. I can't remember the last time I ran 50 miles in a week right now.
58.
Definitely. 58 miles. Wow.
I know. It's been awesome. I feel great. I mean, no niggles or anything. I'm like, I'm coming back quicker than I thought. Actually, I will say, it was tough for like a good 6 weeks. So for anybody out there who has taken a lull from running, coming back, like a lot of friends were like, how's it feel? I'm so excited for you. And I'm like, running's really hard. Like, it's so humbling, And anyways, I finally got over that hump, and I'm like, okay, I feel like a runner again, where I feel fit and I feel good. But man, the bike did not translate to running. I was like, this is tough. But that's okay. I stuck with it. You just got to keep sticking with it, and you'll get there. Anyways, all right, let's jump into it. What do we have on the docket? Who wants to go first with the question?
Well, okay, I have one that's sort of relevant to that, so maybe I'll start with that, and then we'll just go from there. I had someone that wrote, as elite level athletes who also juggle careers outside the sport, I'm sure you aren't doing nearly the mileage that you would be if you were doing it full time. Do you think that there are benefits to that strategy as far as not overtraining? And also, do you feel like that helps give you perspective if you have a bad race so you don't just sit and dwell on it? Which I thought was pertinent on a couple different levels.
Leah, why don't you take that question?
I love that question. I think about this often, and I think about it from a variety of perspectives. One being that I've had periods in my life where I've been able to train more. If my work was relaxed, if I was taking leave of absence, if I was between jobs. And what I learned about myself was like, I just don't love running enough to like do the training that is probably necessary to be at that extreme top end of the sport. And I think that's an okay place to be in. I think like I enjoy having a lot of balance in my life and having like relationships, work, running, FaceTiming my family all the time. Like I like those things, and I don't think I would want to give up all the little pieces of my life to make more space for running. So I think about it in that perspective. I also think like having a balance of a full-time job with running also gives me a lot of like fatigue resistance and versatility when it comes to like running at any hour of the day, often at night with a headlamp. I feel like I'm a skilled nighttime runner because of that, because I'm always doing nighttime running. So yeah, I think
just like fitting it in, right?
There's balance. Yeah, it's like fitting it in when you can, and like it helps you not be so type A about your training whenever you've got a lot going on. And Katie, I think you could probably speak to that from like being a mother perspective. Like there's always something going on. There's always kids fighting right before they're trying to go to bed, and yeah, comes up, and things that you aren't necessarily anticipating.
Yeah, I call it the juggle struggle. It's the juggle.
That's a good one.
Is real. I think, yeah, to your point, Leah, I can't imagine life without my kids and without being an NP, like without medicine and my kids. It's like, that is so much a part of my identity. And it's my love. I don't want to give up work. I will say with work specifically, there have been times where I'm like, I would still be super busy and fulfilled as a mom and a full-time runner. Like the mom thing definitely could take up all of my time and running, and actually be able to recover and get in the doubles that I want and that sort of thing. But I love medicine. And frankly, I've worked really hard to be in medicine, and I've been an NP for 12 years and more than 12 years. And I don't want to give it up. I love it. And I do think it gives me perspective. And honestly, it's not just from a history of having an injury, but it's my patients too. Help me every time I run. I'm grateful for it. Even if I don't feel great. It's like, I've been humbled by my runs for sure, but I'm stoked to do it. But it's yeah, I definitely have that perspective. And I think it is because of my work and my kid and the juggle struggle, and feeling like when you get a run and when it feels good, it's extra nice,
Yeah.
But even when it doesn't feel good, it's like, heck, I got out on my own, and I'm in the fresh air, and I'm moving my body through space, and hell yeah. So
yeah, I do think there's a balance in life. Like I always tell Mike, I'm like, I think working like, 50 to 60% time would be like, that'd be the ideal world.
Yeah,
that's
like
4 hours a day.
4 hours a week.
Yeah, that'd be clutch.
That's my dream world is 60% time.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like, I sit at a desk when I'm not, it's like two extremes. I'm either like on a mountain somewhere, or I'm at my desk editing, and there's really no in between for me with work. Do you guys find that you're on your feet a lot? And do you feel like that is like plus or negative as far as like impact on training or fatigue resistance?
Yeah. My last job, I was in a lead apron in like OR spaces often. And it'd be like standing up in a lead apron, but also sitting down in a lead apron. And those weigh probably a good like 20 pounds. And it's a lot
training
on me.
Rich Lockwood talk about this, that was a part of his training for Run Rabbit. I love it.
Yeah, he and I have bonded over the fact he works in like in the interventional cardiology space, which was like used to be next door to the electrophysiology lab that like I would work in a hospital. And we'd always talk about that, like just, yeah, it is resistance training. It's heavy, and it's strength training.
What do you think about ankle weights? What if we just all wore ankle weights all the time, and they'd be like free strength training?
Do you remember those old Skechers runners that like promised to tone your bum, and they were like the Bosu balls like on the bottoms of them? And like the idea was like you're constantly like moving your feet a little bit and like conditioning your glutes. The advertisements around them were hilarious. Like they were promising like all these like health benefits of these shoes, and it just made me think of that with the ankle weights.
I think maybe we need to bring Skechers back.
Yeah, this is brought to you by Skechers.
Like a fun fact about Anthony Costales is I think his first sponsor in the running world was Skechers.
No way.
Oh my God.
That is a fun
fact.
Yeah, so we need to bring Skechers back to Ultra.
And then he's like, I'm not going to have a sponsor for a long time.
Yeah.
So I used to be an Irish dancer, and we used to do that. I mean, we used to like.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did it for a long time, like years or something as a kid.
Oh, did you have the ringlets?
Oh, girl. Yeah. I was like, into it. Yeah. It was a whole.
Oh, I need to see photos. That should be our cover this week.
I'd like to think that I'm a better technical runner because of it, but I don't think I'm a great technical. So imagine if I hadn't have done that, how horrible I would be. But we used to do the ankle weights while we were practicing. So I've thought about that. I'm like, should I just do a couple pounds on each side.
Oh my God.
My PT was like,
no,
don't.
You know what? Actually, I remember, because I work on Coop's Science magazine with him, and I mostly read the articles as I'm doing the design for them, like 90% of the time. Anyways, they did do one, like a fascinating study. Shout out to Research Essentials of Ultra Running. But it was all about like whether that was a benefit, like training with weights. And
What's
then
the verdict?
The consensus was no, because it just alters your gait.
That's what
and it can either like aggravate injuries, or it's not realistic for like how you would actually run it. So it was an interesting thought. It was like the whole weighted vests and like all that stuff, you know? So I feel like ankle weights would probably fall in that same category. But you would have incredible calves.
Right.
Like, really, right?
Maybe you can do them just while you're doing your PT or your strength work. Just like throw them on, you know, like maybe not while you're running, but just kind of.
Sure. Yeah. Like
maybe.
Pilates, like all that stuff.
We're bringing ankle weights back, people. Okay. Good. That's the name of the episode. Perfect. Okay. Next question. What we got?
Oh my God. Yeah. Leah, do you want to go?
Yes. So we had a listener ask us, as women, how do we navigate safety on trails?
Such a good question. It's like the number one thing I get asked and think about half the time.
Yeah. Did you guys hear?
Tough, right?
Did you hear Tara Dower? You know, to be honest, I saw it on Huzzah, Megan Roach's Huzzah platform for women in science, endurance in science. And one of the things that Tara Dower said, that she saw a bunch of animals, like, you know, whatever, coyote, bear. And then she said the thing that she was most scared about was a man that was not dressed in running clothes or in trail clothes, was the thing that was the most scary to her out there. Right. And imagine being on the AT, so alone, far away from anyone, and just feeling like, I know, Leah, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's something I think about all the time as a past victim of a sexual assault while trail running back when I was 19. Like, it's something that like stays with you. And I think the biggest emotion I have around those things is often like jealousy. I always tell Mike when we're out on a trail, like if we're out together running, I'm like, oh, we see somebody, like a stranger approaching us that like feels like just makes me uncomfortable in my space there. And I always tell him, I'm like, I guarantee you, if you were alone by yourself, like you wouldn't be feeling that way, but I am. And I hate that I feel that way. And I hate that like somebody has in my past has like made me feel that way. And I think it's tough. Like people kind of combat these feelings of like, are you more afraid of like humans when you're out running on trails or animals? And like, I'm afraid of animals on the trails. Yes. But I think like humans are way higher on that list for me, just like unpredictable and you never know. So I think for me, the way I navigate it is I run with people probably 90% of the time. And like, I know that's not easy for everybody out there to do. I think we've got a great community in Salt Lake. I've got a great partner who will like delay his run all day long so he can run with me, which is awesome. Won't always be the case. But I think having like buddies, having community, texting people like where you're at. I share my location dot with a lot of people when I'm running too. And that at least makes me feel safe. And then like there's been times before where I'll start a run and have cut it entirely in half because I just don't feel safe that day. And that's fine. Like being flexible and being okay, not being okay sometimes, even though that sucks.
Do you carry anything with you when you run, Leah? Like, I know there's like the alarms and like noise things and like obviously like pepper spray. Yeah.
If my mom is listening, yes, I do, but no, I don't. I've had all the things. I've had pepper spray. I've had like, I think the birdie is the one thing that makes noise. Like maybe I should, but I think like the day I got attacked, one of the things that was running through my head was, should I take pepper spray with me? And I decided on taking my phone that day instead of pepper spray, and my phone saved my life. So kind of not that pepper spray wouldn't have, but I don't know. I think like the people on the trail or on the streets that you're encountering, like they're the problem. And it's unfortunate that we as women have to like think about how we need to protect ourselves from that.
Yeah. It makes me really angry that you now have to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say I feel a lot different. Like that weight has lifted since I've moved to Mammoth, which maybe isn't a reason to we don't have as many people here. And the people that you see on the trail are just hikers. Like, I've never seen anyone that didn't look like they belonged on the trail. In LA was every run though. Every run. It was like always looking around, and it's hard to completely let yourself go when I was running in the Santa Monicas or the San Gabes. And that was a real like part of the decision about moving to Mammoth. So yeah.
Yeah, that's such a reality too. Like, I think I've got some friends who like lived in unsafe areas, and they've had to like uproot their lives entirely in order to like pursue being a professional athlete, to live in a place that is actually like safer for them to train in full time because they didn't feel safe and like where they were. So I think that's a reality for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because like I kind of have gone in reverse from like very small town, like where I was living 4 years ago. There's like, I was in a town of 5,000 people in a boat access community where mountain lions and bears were the only real concerns. And like, they were legitimate to the point where like I saw bobcats and bears in my backyard, like a mountain lion walked through town a couple times. So I ran with like a hunting knife in my front pouch pocket, which I stopped doing after I tried to cut like a log of salami with it once, and I stabbed myself in the hand instead. So I have 3 stitches in my hand now. I was like, I think I'm more of a danger to myself if I like fall with this thing. It wasn't a case, but like, anyways, I think about that and laugh now because now I live in LA, which is like such a different thing. And I used to run by myself quite a bit when it was like me and the cougars out there. And now, like Billy, I'm fortunate that like my husband runs, and so we run together, sort of like you, Leah. Like we do most of our runs together, or I try to find someone, or at least I run with Charlie, our dog, and he's like a very good judge of people, so I trust his gut. Little Res dog, he just like kind of knows. So, but yeah, it's interesting. Like I feel like I was a lot less afraid when I was younger, and then as I've gotten older, I've become a lot more just like cautious. Like I'm a lot more like eyeing people up or like just sort of analyzing things. And it, you know, Sally and I were talking about this when we were out doing her 200-mile project a couple weeks ago. And we had like pepper spray, and we both had like loud noisemaker alarms and stuff because there was like mountain lions and stuff, and she was really concerned about it at nighttime, and we were running by ourselves all night. And it was funny, I felt so safe out there on those trails. I was like, this is great. And Sally was sort of like, oh, you know, like I'd rather be safe. But just that whole conversation around what's comfortable for each of us. And I think recognizing it's not fair and then sort of like making peace with that in a little bit, because it's never going to be fair for us versus the guys that really don't have to think about it. But then also how we support each other and how we create community and how we create little networks, whether it's checking in on each other or it's like trying to do like a weekly run, or just like the more of that mentality we have of supporting each other. I met this amazing runner, Aroa. She lives in Spain. She's a professional runner, and she's created Aroa is amazing. And so I've been working with her on some of the Here for the Women's Race stuff, and she's on our advisory committee. And she started these WhatsApp groups, and it started like in her city in Spain, and they had like 100 women, and then 200 women, and then 300 women. And then now it's like 1,000 women that are part of this WhatsApp group in her city. And then it started spreading to other cities. And all these WhatsApp groups are networks for all the women that are like running in that city to like find buddies or like ask advice or just like have that community. And I just thought that was really powerful. And just, I think it's important to sort of reflect on like, you know, like the dangers and the scariness of it, but also like as women, I think we can do a lot to kind of create a better environment for ourselves. So
totally. And I think too, just like recognizing like the privileges of all 3 of us as like white women too, like we're not targeted with like any largely much inequality in our spaces too. So there's so many people out there that feel just unsafe living in their day-to-day lives. And that's something like I don't personally experience until I'm like out on the trail alone. And I think just being really responsible allies for our friends, our community, other people, and like just believing people whenever they do experience like unsafe situations on the trail, and like speaking up too, like male counterparts, especially like if you hear somebody on the trail say something that like can be taken a certain way, like, yeah, sticking up and being like, hey, that's not okay. Because I think it starts really with all of us too.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the men, like kind of encouraging men to be our allies in this and to raise the next generation to be better men and just to, you know, all of it.
Yeah. It's easy to be divisive here and to feel like us versus them. And that's not what we want. I also wanted to give a shout out to the Trail Sisters because I think they're doing some really good work and have chapters all over the country, you know, speaking from the United States, but definitely a group to look into if you don't know.
Yeah, Gina's amazing.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Osprey. I see Osprey everywhere, as I'm sure you do too. Whether it's luggage, kids' carriers, or running packs, Osprey is the one-stop shop for adventure. My current favorite for backpacking is the Aura LT50 for lighter weight, multi-day overnight trips where comfort and ventilation are critical. It has an anti-gravity suspension that delivers a weight-defying fit that seamlessly envelopes your back and hips. Talk about comfort. The pack also has easy-to-use side pockets, trekking pole attachment, and integrated rain cover. And it's made with recycled materials. Head over to osprey.com and click on their tool, Pack Finder, to find the perfect pack for you.
Well, I've got another, probably more fun one. I guess it's fun. I don't really know if it's fun. This is about menstrual cycles. So fun, guys.
Yay. All right, let's dive in.
They're curious about options that we have used in races and long distances. I think we've all done quite long distances at this point. We've been out on our feet all day long. And they're curious about what are the options that we as women have out there? Have we had menstrual cups, tampons, different disc options? What do you guys like?
I've gone back. I've used the cup and then also tampons. For the record, for people who've known my career, always carry a tampon with you because you might fall and break your nose and have to use it to stop the bleeding up your nose. And then you win the race. So that's the way it works, guys. But bring tampons with you. But yeah, I mean, I've used both. I think, those are the two that I use. Does that help?
That's helpful. How about you, Hilary?
I have only used tampons and I don't love it. I don't know why. The cups always kind of weirded me out. So I never got into it. But
those are for sport.
I
should say those are usually for I'm going for a run, but in a race, because the races that I run are long, that I wouldn't use that because you just don't know, unless it's a really
but then it's weird because tampons, it's you're supposed to change them every 8 hours, right? So, I definitely I remember when I did Fat Dog 120 miler, that was 34 hours. And so I had my period starting at the beginning of the race for the whole race. And that was a real pain in the butt because I actually had to think about it and I had to change it multiple times and it got really annoying, but I also didn't want toxic shock syndrome. So, it definitely was just this other layer that I was dealing with. But yeah, I don't know. I think I would like to try the cup. And I don't know anything about the disc method, so I'm useless on that one. Have you used it, Leah?
I haven't, no, but I was on a run a couple days ago and I had a friend that does use the disc, which I actually have never even considered. I've been using a cup for years and I love it.
And you never notice it?
No. And it's actually great for ultra running. I think something that was really cool during Further, I got my period. And I mean, it's cool because you can visually see and keep an eye on your period throughout.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, especially when you're doing an event like that is really going to take a toll on your body. And you would expect that it's going to impact your cycle a good bit. And it did. And that was kind of cool to see from a scientific perspective, that's what 6 days does to my period. Neat.
But you should you also had what was it? 2 point, how many miles you were able to change it if you wanted to, right? It's not you're in the woods. I don't know. I mean, I have had,
but I honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I've had my period for the entirety of a race before, and I've kept my cup in the whole day, and it's been fine.
So did Lululemon actually study that? Was that something
they studied? We reported when we got our cycles.
Okay.
And I told Megan Roach afterwards, the quantity and I was like, this might be TMI, but I was like, I think from a scientific perspective, it was actually pretty interesting.
This is how much blood I was losing, guys.
I was like, thanks for being my coach. I'm sorry.
Did they check if you're anemic? Did they have a point of care hemoglobin machine or anything?
We did pre, post, and then we did blood draw every day if you wanted to. And that would just be for like, they did full iron panels every day if we wanted that. But I think I just did pre and post.
Yeah. Interesting. Good question.
It is fascinating because I feel like I get my period more times than not at the beginning of a race. Like my body just kind of knows, like, here we go. And like, boom. I feel like as women, you just sort of have to expect it. And then it's like a pleasant surprise if you don't have to deal with it.
Leah, every time I'm at Michigan Bluff, I think about you. Just good times. Cool. Okay, moving on. Leah does not want to tell that story. Okay, perfect.
Should we keep going with the like female centric questions while we're on a roll?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
I feel like I'm sorry to all of our male listeners this week, but hey, we have questions.
This is great for them. They need to know this.
Yeah, they need to know this. I know, exactly. This is all educational. Okay, to Katie and Rachel, but Katie, since Rachel's not here, to Katie. I'm working through my first pregnancy and wondered if you could talk about your journey back to running and feeling like yourself again postpartum. I'm worried I won't be able to get back to my training in the same way again as a non-elite but passionate mid-pack runner.
I thought that was really cool. So yeah, I think I started running at trails, and having children were like one and the same for me. Like it all happened at the same time. And I really think it's because I really needed space. Like I needed to find myself again. And not that I didn't love being a mom, but I needed time away. And it gave me that perspective and that space to be able to come back a better mom. I remember like having like my breasts engorged, like, oh my gosh, just throbbing. And it definitely helped with negative splits to get back to the car to pump. But I remember pumping on my way to the trailhead and then pumping on the way back, and just like fluids, and just feeling okay with that, and just kind of knowing it was not going to be forever. I also will say that I definitely underestimated. Everybody talks about how you're exhausted, but I underestimated how tired I would be and how that would affect my psychology and like desire to like be present with my kids. Like for me, it was really, really, really critical after probably week 3 or so, after kind of the endorphins, like we're like, okay, this is happening. I'm good. Now I actually need to sleep. And I really needed to lean into friends and family to come and just let me take nap breaks, because I was up so much in the night. So once I realized and I could open myself up to help, that's probably my number one suggestion, is be ready and willing to accept help, and be like, get your army ready to go. Like ask for the meal train for you. Definitely don't say that, all the dishes come with something that could be thrown out, so that you don't have to wash it and return it to that person, because that's a pain in the butt. But things like that, like accepting your community so that you can stay sane, so that you can get back to running when you feel up to it. I will say, in the beginning, I definitely peed on myself a lot, and I got really worried because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pee on myself for the rest of my running career. And it went away, and that was good. But it definitely did last. Like I think maybe 2-3 months, like I would like have a hard time, like definitely would dribble. And I was like, oh, this is not fun. But it went away. So I think working with a good pelvic floor PT is critical. And also just being really, really like, just give yourself grace, and just like no expectations. This is a sacred time in life, and just getting outside and enjoying trails, no matter the pace, just like getting that time with friends or on your own. Just being able to have that kind of self-expression is so important as a new mom. And like, it's okay if you don't have the energy to do it, like your life will get back. It will happen. And it it might look a little bit different. The struggle will happen, will be a little harder. But I would say just give yourself grace, stick with it. And just know that the trails aren't going away, and they'll be waiting for you. Rachel, what do you have to say? That. What would Rachel say?
Yeah.
Something more eloquent.
Giving yourself grace. Yeah. Do you feel like just like psychologically, was it hard to see your body change so much and like not recognize anything about yourself through that period? Or was it all just sort of like you're along for the ride?
Yeah. And everybody's going to hate me for this, but like, I loved it. I was like, loved being pregnant, and I loved like the big belly and the changes in my body. I felt like I was so powerful the whole time. I mean, everybody was like expecting that would change after the second trimester. Like, oh, you're going to start feeling like a whale, because I'm sure I looked like one, but I felt amazing because I was like, I am woman, hear me roar. And I felt so lucky to be able to have a baby. And just feeling, I never felt any of that, but I know a lot of women do. So I don't want to underestimate that or like undermine those feelings, because a lot of people do feel that way. And I will say, just back to injury, my body definitely has changed through injury too. Like I've definitely put on weight. And it, for me, I'm like, thank God, like I needed to put on weight because it's unsustainable to be an endurance athlete without like being able to get in enough calories. So for me, it's like your body will make those changes as it needs to. And I don't know, I think being grateful for it and kind of flipping that switch of being like, I'm woman, hear me roar, is helpful.
I love that so much, Katie. Like I feel like that if you are struggling with it, just having a mantra like that and being able to reframe it could be like a really powerful way to just sort of be like, nope, I'm going to channel all this like life, right?
I remember laying in bed being like, I'm the most productive I've ever been. Like, I am just a goddess just laying here, just like, so beautiful.
A human.
To our listener, congratulations. I hope that it's been a good journey for you.
That's so cool. Yeah, something I was going to say is kind of like an opposition a little bit to your perspective, Katie. Timely, Brittany Charbonneau, she's pregnant. She's a runner for the North Face. And she had a post, I think just today, just talking about the changes that her body's going through and just like kind of like the discomfort at times, and recognizing that a lot of people don't share those stories. So sometimes like you don't feel okay sharing those stories because you're not seeing them around you. So I really enjoyed reading her perspective because not everybody loves being pregnant, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. I loved reading it though. It's really, it was refreshing.
I'll have to go check that out. So good. Leah, what you got for us?
Let's see here. Okay. This one's a little bit more on the competition side of things. So we have a listener who said, I just ran 100 miles and I saw that my stop time through aid stations was over 2 hours. What do you guys do to minimize time in aid stations to make sure you're efficient out on the trail?
Ooh, I love this question.
I was going to say, well, I'm not the elite athlete here, so I feel like you should go first, and then I will chime in with my own attempts at being efficient.
Okay, I want to say it starts with like way before the race starts. You got to plan for it and like look at that elevation profile and go, I'm going to miss this aid station. I'm going to be at this aid station. And the reason why is because it's at the top of a hill and I'm going to need a break anyway. I'm not going to hit this aid station because it's on a descent and I want to run right through it and it's going to feel really good. But I would say like at Western States, oh my gosh. So it's kind of embarrassing. My team's got it down now, but man, that first year we like practiced our pit stops. Who was doing ice, who was filling the,
wait, how did you practice?
I want the day before, or like the Thursday before the race, I had my whole team and I'd like run in. I mean, it was like silly, but also like kind of getting the nerves out too. But I would run in like from, 100 feet away and I'd run in and we'd be like, and the team would practice and each person had their own, like job, and one was ice, one was the ice bandana, one was ice in the hat, one was ice in the sleeves, one was switching out my pack, one was giving me salt caps or whatever, handing me a gel to have while I was sitting in the aid station, whatever it was. So it was like I was trying not to sit. I will say that's actually number one, is I really try not to sit if I don't have to, because I usually don't change my shoes. Otherwise, like really try not to sit unless you're having a really tough time. But I think even more now after, especially how quick the races are now, I'm like, I don't even want to stop. Like I want people to hand me things as I'm walking or like running, continuing to run. Like I don't want to stop at all. I mean, clearly you have to sometimes, but I think this is maybe more of like, if you're really trying to, compete in a quick level. But I will say that planning in advance is key. So do that, practice with your team, make sure like for sure pack swaps are amazing if you have the means to have more than one pack. That's fantastic. Osprey is a wonderful brand. You should check them out. Plug. But having multiple packs to be able to do like a quick swap is really critical. More to say probably. Leah, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, that's all really good stuff. And you said a lot of the things I was going to hit on. Something that I also like to do, I'm a very organized planner when it comes to my aid stations. Like I love taking all the thinking off of me, but also off of my crew. So this is something that you can do if it's a race like Western States where you've got like 5 people in your crew, or it's just like your backyard 100-miler where, you know, you've just got your partner being your crew. But I like to make Post-it notes or like a little index card that says exactly the things that they will do. And it's funny, and I don't even know why I do it, but I talk in third person on these index cards. So I'm like, put ice in Leah's hat, take headlamp off Leah's head. So yeah, just like sentences like that are very explicit. So if your crew gets nervous, which I think sometimes they do, like I've been crew before, it's nerve-wracking. You don't want to miss something. You don't want to mess something up. They've got that index card right in front of them. And like, if you can even look at it at an aid station if you've got a moment. I also like to sometimes put the like next segment details on that index card as well. So if I ask my crew how many miles to the next aid station, what's it look like? They can like flip it over and say, oh, 2,500 feet, 7 miles. This should take you about an hour and a half or whatever it might be.
Or knowing when the next time you're going to see them is really nice, right? Like we're going to see you in 4 hours. We're going to see you in 2 hours, like big difference mentally. Yeah. Yeah.
And one of my favorite aid station things that I've acquired over the last couple of years, mostly in prep for Western States, is my collapsible bucket. I highly recommend it. It's amazing. You can like put all your things in the bucket as you're walking to the aid station. And then when you get to the aid station, you can like fill it up with ice and water and stuff. And it's the best. You can get it at REI or Amazon. And it's like, it goes everywhere with me. And it packs really nicely. If you're flying somewhere, you can just smash that thing down, put it in your duffel bag and be on your way.
That's a good tip. Hilary?
Gosh, I know it's funny because I definitely don't do as much planning before my races, but when I'm running, I am constantly making mental checklists. Like every time I'm walking up a hill, running, I've run all the hills, you guys, but on the off chance I'm not running them. As I'm moving up the hills, I like to go through, like, that's always my chance to like go through a list of like everything I'm doing, everything I need to work on. Whenever I know there's an aid station coming up, spending like the last few miles before I go into it, just focusing on all the things that I want to remember and tell my crew and stuff, and just being really like present in that so that I am efficient. And I pace a lot, which I love. I love pacing other people and being part of their days. So yeah, just like kind of that exercise with your runner, especially when they're in a tired headspace, and just sort of being that voice of like, okay, what are we focusing on? What do we need? Like what's missing here? And just sort of like constantly coming back to that little equation of like all these things, So yeah, for me, it's less like I definitely do the pre-race stuff, especially because I do a lot of like longer races. So it is a ton of like looking at this like 100-mile distance and like making sure that you've got everything at your aid stations. But also I really do a lot of mental checklists as I'm running and like coming into aid stations. So
yeah, something that you made me think about, like these longer distances and like being on stretches where you don't have crew access, or like you don't have crew, but you have aid stations. Mm-hmm, so exactly. This made me think about UTMB. Actually, there was at least 2 stretches last year where there would be like 6 to 7 hour stretches where I wouldn't see my crew. So I had a ton of nutrition on me, and carrying your phone is required for UTMB. So I actually had my spreadsheet, like a snapshot of my spreadsheet set as the background on my lock screen on my phone. So when I was at like one of those middle aid stations, maybe like 3 hours into one of those 7-hour stretches, I like would pull my phone out real quick and just make sure I was doing all the things on there that I had planned. That might be like taking a salt tab, like eating a gel, and making sure that I was filling a bottle with like, maybe it was Roctane at that time, and checking those boxes. So I think it kind of all goes back to like having a plan, period. And starting, and I think keeping a spreadsheet and planning that way is like the bare minimum that you can do to like make those aid station transitions more efficient. But then there's all the little things that you can really like start slicing, dicing some time off.
I love making PDFs for my crew before the race, and it's always got like the elevation chart and then all the things. And it's like, if nothing else, even if they don't read it, which I hope they do, but like at least putting it all down on paper like helps me so much. So yeah, big fan of that.
I will say, and one more thing is sometimes too many options is paralyzing. So I've definitely started my career. Like, I'm like, maybe I'll want this. Maybe I'll want Sour Patch Kids. Maybe I'll want chips. Maybe I'll want pickles. Maybe I'll want, like, I want all of the things, and then I'll be able to choose. And I am going to run off my desires.
I can totally picture you doing that, Katie. Like, I just
I don't know. Maybe that. Yeah, maybe let's try that too. Ooh, yeah, maybe I want that. Right. And then I show up, and then you're like, oh my God, like, I don't know. I got to go. And like, I don't know what I want. It's like, you kind of lose it's that whole, like, like, take away my autonomy. Just give me the stuff I need and get me out of there. Because when there's too many options, it's just overwhelming. So that's another tip. Can slow you down.
I have to say, instant mashed potatoes have saved my life. Ooh. And like everybody I know, and like every runner I've ever helped, I bring instant mashed potatoes,
especially
and
at night.
It always saves everyone's life. Yeah,
nice and warm.
So just bring all the instant mashed potatoes, if nothing else, right? Like that'll save you. That'll keep you going.
No spreadsheet, mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I have a question. Are you ready? What has been your most memorable race and why? Memorable, maybe not favorite. Memorable.
I think for me, probably the Doi Intanon, the Thailand 50, it was like 57K. It was just like I'd been up to Chiang Mai before for a climbing trip, but I'd never like run up there. And I am so afraid of snakes. Like, I am so afraid of snakes, which is funny. And like, I used to photograph the Coastal Challenge in Costa Rica every year, and there's snakes all over the jungle there. And I spent my whole week in absolute fear of every stick, and like running those trails. It was like mentally, I jumped in the air like probably 10 times, just like straight in the air. And like, it was just, I don't know, like there wasn't many people around. Like, I actually ended up, I think I was like 7th or 8th overall in the end, and so there was only a few people in front of me, and my whole strategy had been to like let everyone else clear the snakes out before me, and it didn't really work out like that. And I got in my head so much that I was actually like I don't know, like it was, anyways, I was really proud of myself. Anyways, that's why it made it memorable, because I overcame it and I didn't see any snakes at all, and I just had a lot of good adrenaline rushes every time I saw a dark brown stick in the forest. And it was like a lot of like piled up leaves, and the trails there, they just kind of like made trails with machetes. Like they were like brand new trails for us. And so, but it was just like also an amazing experience, and running through all these like rice fields and like people's farms. And they're like, I think they were totally unaware that there was this race happening, and they're all just sort of there. Like, you know, like it was just such a cool experience, the whole thing. So I highly recommend it, but if you have a fear of snakes,
I can't wait to go.
And the humidity. Did I mention the humidity?
Yeah, it's so humid and hot, and everybody's chafed.
Oh, but the food.
Yeah.
You guys, my favorite part was at the pre-race briefing, the race director was fielding all these questions from runners that wanted to know what was on the menu at the aid stations. Like that was like critically important. And they had like dumplings and like hot meals, but it was also like 115 degrees Fahrenheit with humidity. I was like, can I just have a cup of Coke? No. Okay. Never mind. I'll take the dumplings. Thank you.
Wow. You're really
but also like
this race.
It's an amazing part of travel. I just think it's the best. Like, it's sort of like UTMB. Like, it's fascinating to see like a different race experience than what we're used to. And I just kind of love it, like the chaos of it all. So anyways, most memorable for many reasons, but 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, you made me think of this isn't my answer, but maybe it kind of what would have been my answer. But right before Worlds in Chiang Mai, Mike and I were out on a shakeout run with a couple others, and I did not see the snake, but he saw the snake that was like this thick in diameter.
Wow.
No. Yeah. Like 4 inches thick for our listeners who aren't watching.
Yes.
So was it like a python or like a, what was it?
I think so. And it was like up and over a log that we were leaping over this log. And I think it was him and Addie Bracey saw it. And they both screamed and were like, oh my God, this is terrifying. And I saw nothing. And I'm so happy I saw nothing, because this was like 2 days before our race. And I'm like, I probably would have had that visual of that snake in my head the entire race, just like you did, Hilary.
Yeah, no. I can't even imagine that. Just like, I'm just over here crawling out of my skin at the thought of
Do you guys feel like the hurt is kind of like that? Because it feels like whenever you see pictures of the hurt, it's just like the roots crawling on the ground, you know, and you're just like stepping over. Every time I see pictures of the hurt in Hawaii, I'm always like, oh man, it just looks just like you're crawling over snakes. Yeah.
God, I would be on the ground.
It
so
totally
often
does.
in that race.
Yeah.
I think my most memorable race, I think, is Trans Gran Canaria. I did the, there was like a, I don't know, I forget what distance, maybe 65K I did a couple years ago. And then Mike was doing the classic race, which is like 70 some miles. And this was just straight up monsoon weather for the first like 4 hours of my race, where we were just getting like 60 to 70 mile an hour gusts of winds as we're up on this kind of ridge going up to Roque Nublo, which is kind of like a high point, but really cool aspect of the race. But right as I'm about to start my race, it's monsoon weather, and Mike happens into the start area from his race. So he's like coming into that area just kind of by chance, and like comes looking for me and finds me like huddled down in like the library in town where everybody was like hunkering down before the race start. And I was like, what are you doing? Why aren't you racing? He's like, I am. I just wanted to come see you. And I was like, oh, that's sweet of you. And I was like, get back out there. And then I'm like, maybe I'll see you later. He's like, oh, you'll definitely see me later. So I was like, okay, well, we'll see about that. And then like probably an hour or two into my race, I see this guy in like an orange rain jacket and yellow toilet washing gloves, like kitchen cleaning gloves. When we were planning for this race, Mike was thinking like, oh, it's like a beach vacation. I'm not going to need like cold weather gear, and did not pack gloves. And it was like probably 30 to 40 degrees and like torrential downpour the whole time. So all we could find on the island was these like yellow kitchen and toilet cleaning gloves the day prior. So I see these yellow gloves in the middle of the woods, like 2 hours into my race. I'm like, there he is.
There he is. That's
There's my guy.
Oh, that's a great story. Oh my God.
So that's like one of my favorite race moments. There he is.
Just ready to scrub a toilet.
I think he was like sweating really bad, like underneath him. And I was like,
well,
they're not exactly
the worst.
So that was a highlight.
Yeah, he'd be better off putting socks on his hands, honestly. Oh, that's hilarious. You're like, there's my husband. There we go.
How about you, Katie? What's one of your favorite race memories?
That's so funny because I feel like, I guess my first thought was my first 50 miler, because it like it was so memorable, because I remember feeling like, this is it. Like I found my calling. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And it was Marin Ultra Challenge. And it just was like in the bay, and you're running through rainforest and then up into, seeing the Golden Gate Bridge. And it was like magical. And it was so memorable because it definitely like started the rest of my career, and feeling like I found it. This is it. Like I found myself. And so it felt really memorable. But now that you guys are telling this story, now I'm like, but what was really most memorable, actually, to be honest, I think this was the most memorable because I couldn't breathe. So I ran I Am Tough in Idaho, and it was during the horrible fire seasons. And I mean, you're just like wheezing. And I remember the last 20 miles of the race, just like, and feeling like I was going to pass out, and going like, just keep trying to get air through. Like it was so scary. And it's just, I think what it gets to is, first, I learned a lot that race. Like, turns out your lungs are important. And I was absolutely shredded. We've actually, all of us have talked about this a little bit. Like, we haven't talked about this probably publicly yet, but what ultra running can do to your lungs, especially if it's during fire season. And oh my gosh, if that AQI is high, it's just, oh my God. But even if it's not fire season and the air is clear, and just like your breathing effort is just for so many hours, and you're trying so hard, for so many hours. And then afterwards, like I remember feeling like I thought I was having a pulmonary embolism. I was so freaked out. I went to the emergency room because I was like, I'm dying. Like my chest pain is so bad. I can't breathe. And they're like, no, you just ran 100 miles and an AQI of 250, you idiot. But it was terrifying. Right. So just like memorable, and also was so happy I actually survived that race and didn't end up in the ED like before the race was over, which is so horrible to say now looking back. Like, oh my God, if one of my children told me that, I'd be like, what are you thinking? Those were crazy times. I don't know if I would do that anymore. I don't know if it's like not worth it. I feel like I've matured a bit. Like, nope, lungs are quite important. Like, let's keep you breathing. And I don't know if breathing through a straw for 20 miles, the last 20 miles of the race was so bad. But anyways, so memorable for sure. All of our experiences, guys, memorable. I don't know if
1 out of 10 would do again.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that one again. Yeah.
Live and learn.
Yeah. Actually, people that are running Kodiak are thinking about this stuff right now, right?
Yeah.
Like I know Corinne, Hilary, do you want to say that you're facing her? But anyways,
one
of our friends is just decided not to run Kodiak because of the fire. And so it's off to Javelina. But
yeah, well, I'll be at Javelina, guys.
I'm so excited.
Matching tutus? What are we going to wear?
It's going to be so much fun.
Oh
we'll have to Photoshop Rachel in. There's always one of us.
I know.
It's like the rotating crew. One day, you guys. Okay, let's do a couple like quick hits to end this thing off because I have a couple shorties left on my list. Okay, favorite summit snack and go. Not race snack, summit snack.
Oh, Scandinavian swimmers.
Trader Joe's ones?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The sour ones, too, not the normal ones.
The sour ones, those are good. I've said this before, it's kind of gross, but the Annie's burritos that are frozen, if you pack it in your pack and then it like thaws by the time you get to the summit, and then you get to have this like amazing burrito at the top.
That's
people think that's really gross, but it's delicious. So, wholesome.
I mean, I love cold food. I love cold pizza. I think that'd be good.
It's really good, especially after a long day. Like I want like a meal,
Yeah, I guess sort of like, is this like we're having lunch up here summit or like snack?
Yeah.
For snack, I'm going Baby Bells and the like little packets of olives that you get from Trader Joe's.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, because that's like 400 and something milligrams of sodium per packet. So great little like hit.
And then Hilary just like needs her wine and like a hut.
And then I have a freaking charcuterie at the top of the mountain, you guys. This is how I roll.
You win that one. Perfect.
I need to run with you more often.
Yeah, I will share. Maybe not my olives or my wine. Okay, and then the last one I had was, how do we feel about Tylenol and Advil in ultras? Hot take, everybody. Not what science says necessarily, although Katie, I know you are conflicted, but how do we feel about it?
I do not like ibuprofen or Advil in races. I do not mind Tylenol. I think, everybody's got their personal preference, and I think there's a lot of harsh feelings against ibuprofen, like for kidney reasons. And I try to steer away from that, just from like bad occurrences in the past with some kidney stuff. But Tylenol's fine.
I get the I'm in the same camp as you. I don't do Advil or ibuprofen, but I get the 8-hour slow release Tylenol. A pharmacist recommended that to me one time. They're like, if you're gonna do it, so it just sort of like measures it out. And I've had a couple races where, I don't know about you guys, but I get like quite bad lower back pain when I run, like kind of crampy lower back pain. And I don't know, I never used to get it. Maybe I'm just getting old. But taking a Tylenol can just like totally take it away. Like it's a nerve thing, So it's, I don't know. For me, that's like saved me. And like, I'd rather take a Tylenol and finish the race than like not be able to. Totally. So
no NSAIDs ever. I would say there's never a never in ultra running, but that's one of them that I really try and abide by, especially if it's hot. So if it's hot at all, like if it's a freezing race, like maybe it's not that worrisome, but I still wouldn't do it. It's just like freaks me out. Like you don't want any med that's metabolized through your kidneys. So I just wouldn't go there, but I have done Tylenol, and I do think there is some literature regarding Tylenol decreasing your core temp, which potentially could increase your performance. So there's something there as an antipyretic. I think Tylenol's all right. And, I wouldn't go max dose of Tylenol, but I think Tylenol's fine. And then just try and avoid the NSAIDs. Yeah. I have done diclofenac, like Voltaren gel, which is funny because the half-life is like you need it
Nothing.
to be taking it for a long time. Like it's really placebo. Like if you're rubbing diclofenac gel on you, it's like, nah, that's not doing anything, but makes you feel like it is.
I used that during further, and it was very temporary, but it was so nice on the knees.
10 minutes.
My knees got like so arthritic during and after further, and that was my saving grace. And my crew was just making fun of me by the end. They're like, "How are you going to survive after further without your diclofenac?" I was like,
Leah, is there going to be
I need to wean myself off.
Is there another further? Like, is Lululemon going to do another event?
Not that I know of.
Leah's face.
Like, not that I'm signing up for, at least. She's like, they know better to come back to ask us.
They're like, we'll give them some time.
Yeah, they need new athletes for that. One and done. That's funny. Awesome. How should we end this? Is there one last one that's a good one?
Do you have anything, Leah?
I've got something that's kind of fun. If we could Okay.
Well,
We'll try this one. What's something in the sport that you think is overrated?
Wikipedia.
It doesn't need to be deep.
Sorry, that's all I'll say on that. Overrated. Oh my God. I don't know. Come back to me.
I just thought about this one. I hadn't really thought much about this, but this is probably controversial because we are a podcast, but I don't really listen to running podcasts. This is like
hot take, Leah.
This is it, guys. So
running
podcasts are overrated.
I kind of am with you. We were talking about that before we started the episode on like there's like the serious ones that are either like sciencey or very like just well researched and all that stuff, and then there's just like the ones where you feel like you're hanging out with a friend, which I like. I feel like that's where
very alley on the run
we live.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, I haven't actually listened to it, but yeah, that one.
Very much that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes for sure this is going to be my hot take. I think carbon plated shoes are overrated. I don't think that you need them in trail running. I really don't. And maybe that's just my experience. I just feel as if when you're doing speed work on the road, totally wear your carbon plated shoe. But like on trails, for me, it doesn't do anything for me. And so I don't think I need them, but that's my hot take. And maybe, like I said, never say never. And that could change, but I just don't feel like it does a lot for my running gait, at least.
Yeah, I've heard, I still have not used a pair. I'm curious. Shoe curious, but I've heard like, depending on like your gait and your biomechanics, like they're either for you or perhaps they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. At least on trail, specifically trail. I think road is a totally different story, but I guess that's my hot take. I don't know. Is that a hot take? I don't know. That's pretty juicy.
I think so. Yeah. The only thing I could think of was like toe socks are overrated, just because of how they feel rubbing against each other. No.
I love them. I've never had a blister in my life, and it's
but me neither. And I don't wear them.
You don't tape your
actually, I've had a
feet
few blisters, but not many.
Do you tape your feet?
I don't know. No. Billy puts deodorant on his feet.
Ooh.
And that just like I think lubricates them and stops some of the sweating. Like he always has deodorant and the antiperspirant stuff. So
that's interesting.
There's a hot take from the Yang family. Don't wear toe socks and put deodorant on your feet, everybody.
And they'll smell nice.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be the one runner with nice feet.
Like, does he have sweaty feet?
Not particularly. I wouldn't say they're excessively sweaty. Everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Billy, I heard your feet are really sweaty."
What's overrated?
Come over here and cut me off.
Feet.
Yeah. But I think it's just like, preventative, right?
Yeah.
Like keep those blisters from forming. So I don't know. Try it, Katie. Swap those toe socks out.
Dude, I think sometimes some of us, like, we've done things for so long that you just kind of do it no matter what. You know what I mean? Like,
I didn't know you wore toe socks. I'm going to picture that when I look at your feet.
I tape my feet.
Toe socks in there.
I tape them and I put and I wear toe socks because that's what I've done since I started trail running before every race.
Okay, that reminds me of how how you like went home when we were out at the 10K at Mammoth to tape Pete's feet before his race.
See?
Really
and I like brought him over to the trails. And so he watches what I do. And so he's like, I need you to come home so you can tape my feet. Yeah. Because after
it was really cute.
Yeah, I was like, okay, honey, I'm coming. Yeah. Ridiculous.
Oh, a true love. Well, on that note,
we just all spoke about so lovingly of our husbands. Sweaty feet. We've got some like kitchen gloves.
The kitchen gloves, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I still want a hubby episode. I think it'd be so fun to get him on just to like.
That would be cute.
I don't know. Good times. All right. Well, teaser. Maybe it's coming. This has been so fun. I love doing this.
This has been really fun. I feel like this should be something we do again a lot sooner because I had a blast.
Okay. Ask more questions, listeners.
Yeah, listeners. Send them to our DMs on Instagram or send them to us personally if you aren't sneaking into those DMs. But yeah, follow our account and send us some messages.
Yay. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Bye. All right. What do you guys think of today's episode? I had a blast. I hope you guys did too. Please let us know what you thought. Hit us up on Instagram via the Trail Network Podcast. Send us more questions. That was so much fun. And thank you to all those listeners who sent us questions. That was definitely a good time. Let us know what you think. We love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and give us 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. And we'll see you next time.